Hi, my name is Adam Flynn with NEU Country, and in today's training webinar, we are going to cover the full functionality of EASYmapping 2.0. To begin, we first need to enter into our policy, which today we'll be using John Doe. And in order to use the full functionality of EASYmapping, we always need to endorse the policy. You'll see once we select the Endorse Policy button, it changes over to Commit, which lets us know that we now have the full functionality of Policy Editor, and in this case, EASYmapping. You'll notice the EASYmapping icon is the same as before, so once we select that, we'll be brought into EASYmapping. But the first major change that we're going to cover is first without actually looking at EASYmapping. So you'll notice in the background, the Enable Editing button showed up on the Policy Editor. Now what this means is that it allows us to keep EASYmapping open while still being able to jump back and forth between Policy Editor and EASYmapping. In the past, you would have to close EASYmapping in order to make any changes to the policy side. Now, all we need to do is select the Enable Editing button. You'll see EASYmapping, what looks like closes, is actually just minimized down below, as you can see here. And now I have the ability to either edit my policy, for example, maybe enter some production, change a unit, whatever the case may be, and then very quickly jump back into EASYmapping, and you notice the Enable Editing button is located there now. Once again, once I select that, you'll see the Enable Editing button shows up on the Policy Editor side again. All changes that I would have made will have been saved. In this case, I didn't make any changes, but if there would have been, they would have been saved, and I can continue to work within EASYmapping. So that is one of the major changes that we wanted to make, and a lot of these changes that we're going to cover today will actually be with the strategy in mind of let's give the user the most functionality possible that will allow them to not have to leave EASYmapping while working. For the rest of the demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and maximize the map. That way we can see everything. And I'm also going to turn off the All Fields layer just so we have a nice clean map as well. We'll come back to this icon here shortly, but for now I'm just going to real quickly turn it to Policy Fields, and I'm going to close this menu down for now. Another major change that you may have noticed right off the bat is when I click the EASYmapping icon, instead of being brought over into Map Entry, where you can do your acreage reporting, production reporting, and then you'd have to select the EASYmapping tab to get into EASYmapping, you can see we are brought directly into EASYmapping. Now while we're in EASYmapping, a lot of the functionality is actually fairly similar. There are some new features as well, but we'll first cover the icons located on the left-hand side, and then we'll start from the left and make our way to the right along the top here with the toolbar. The icons themselves, like I said, actually do not have much new functionality, but they do look a little different, and they are located in a different part of the screen. So we'll cover those first. So this first icon is actually just letting me know that this particular policy has actually already been rolled over to 2020. So in this case, we can go ahead and ignore it, but if I click that icon, you can see this window here. The next 6 icons actually allow you to move around or zoom in and out on the map itself. When you first get into EASYmapping, the Select Fields tool will always be your default selection, and in order to move around the map, you'll need to utilize these first icons here. The first one is your pan. When I select that, I can click and hold on the map, and you can see my map will begin to move. The next 2 are our zoom in and zoom out. One click on the zoom in will zoom you in. One click on the zoom out will zoom you out, just like that. The zoom to extent icon will actually allow you to manipulate the map itself by clicking and holding and drawing a box. And wherever I release my mouse, that is the extent to which I'll zoom in on. So in this case, I zoomed in on this particular section, and you can see there now I can view those fields very easily. The next icon with the magnifying glass and the little red barn is our zoom to farm view. And this will actually bring you to the default view you first saw when you jumped into EASYmapping. What this really means is it is the most close zoomed in we could get while showing all of the fields that are mapped on this policy. So in this case, we have a very close group of fields, and that's why we have a nice close zoom in view here. If this policy was much larger, or if the fields spanned several sections, maybe even several counties, the farm view would actually be a much more zoomed out view of the map itself. And then the last icon there, our zoom to section, works just as you would assume. With this selected, I can click inside any section, and it'll bring me into a nice zoomed in view of just that section. So for example, if I wanted to look at section 25 here in the upper right hand corner, I can click that and you see it brings me into section 25. Let's go ahead and just return to farm view. That way we can see our fields again. So that is our first icons there with the ability to manipulate the map, zoom in and out. The next three are our identify, quick nav, and our map layers. Now with these three icons, this will actually create a menu system that'll drop down for me on the right hand side. So for example, when I select the identify tool, also commonly called the pin tool, this will see you drop down that menu on the right hand side, and it allows me to pin inside any one of these fields. So for example, if I pin inside field 9, you'll see it's going to fill in the state, county, and legal information. Then it provides the field information here below. So if I select this field 9, it'll then provide me with additional field information, again applicable to just this field. The pin tool can also show you soil information by editing the background on the map itself. So you'll notice if you follow my mouse icon in the upper right hand corner, I'm currently looking at the fastest imagery. If I change that to soil, you'll see the map layer will begin to change, and I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. Sometimes it helps load it up a little quicker for me. I'll have the new background. And again, if I click inside that same field, you'll see I still have my field 9 information, but now I can click the soil type and look at that information again pertaining to just this field. Let's go ahead and turn the imagery back to fastest, and let's look at our quick navigation. Now another new piece of functionality here, you'll notice that I still have my menu on the right hand side, but I can very quickly jump back over to the identify tool. So it will create an internal tab system, if you will, located over here on the right hand side. Now with the quick nav, this allows me to very quickly navigate to either fields that are already mapped on the policy or find fields that are not mapped on the policy. When you first select quick nav, you'll always be utilizing the fields view, or in other words, you're looking at just the fields that are mapped on the policy. With this selected here, you can view all the fields below. You can see I can scroll up and down, and if I was looking for, say, this field here, once I click it, it'll bring me to a nice zoomed in view of that field. Now I'm going to click my zoom to farm view just so I can get my fields back here, but you can see if I select the drop down, I also have the ability to, example, look at views. You'll see my view cards down below, and again, if I select view 1, for example, I'll zoom in on just that view, and it'll highlight all fields that are associated with that view. The Sims Fields by FTF, which is probably the most common option, which will allow you to search for the FTF for either a field that's already mapped on the policy, or a field that's currently not mapped on the policy, which will allow you to very quickly add it to the policy if that's what you're looking to do. And you can see here the remaining options within the quick nav: policy sections, which in this case will align with our views since there are only 2, all sections, cities, units, and townships. Now within the fields, you'll see we do have some sorting and filtering options, so I can either sort by FTF, which you can see when I select that, we'll put it into numerical order. And then you also have the ability, by selecting this icon here, to filter by just either the FSN, the tract, FSA field number, so on and so forth. So you have some sorting and filtering options as well within the quick nav menu. And then last but not least, we have our map layers. Now our map layers, we saw there shortly in the beginning when I turned off the all fields, turned on the policy fields, again just to keep the map a little cleaner for us. But these layers here are no different than what you're used to seeing today in EASYmapping, and so I won't go into the different layers here, as again these are not new functionality. But what I will cover is these icons located over here on the right hand side of the menu itself. Now you'll notice I'm again still creating a little internal tab between my identify, quick nav, and map layers, but for now I'm going to actually just turn off my quick nav by hitting the close blue X button, and I'm also going to do the same for the identify tool. Again, I'm just going to hit the zoom to farm view to extent just so that I can see my fields, and I'm going to deselect those fields I did have selected. Now the icons located on the right hand side right-hand corner, I should say, will allow you to manipulate where this menu shows up on the screen. So for example, if you'd like to keep map layers open while you work within EASYmapping, but you'd prefer it to be next to your icons located on the left hand of the screen, you can select the dock left icon, and you'll see that I'll actually move my menu over to the left hand side of my screen. You can select dock right and put it back, or you also have the ability to float this menu. And what this will do is it'll float the menu so that you can move it to a different monitor or anywhere on your screen. So in this case, I currently have it set up to go to a different monitor. That way I can see the full map on my policy. If I'd like to redock it, I would simply just redock it to the right, and you can see it shows up again here on my map. And this functionality is located in several places within EASYmapping, but this was just a good opportunity to show that here. So for now, I'm going to close my map layers, and we're going to continue on with the icons. So again, we already looked at our select field and deselect field. With select field, you can either just one click and then click again to deselect, or you can click and hold and select multiple fields at the same time. Deselect all fields will work just as you'd assume, and will deselect any fields that are currently clicked on the map. The next icon is our field attributes, and when I click it, you'll see it's first going to be blank, and that's because I do not have any fields currently selected on the map. If I select, for example, this field here, you'll see it's going to pre-fill my information regarding that field that I selected. If I select multiple fields, it'll continue to build my field list below here in the policy field attributes grid. Take note, I do have the ability to float this menu as well. So you can see there that I now have it floating, and I move it off to my other monitor. Now I can see a full-size view of my fields again. To close the policy field attributes, simply just hit the blue X, and you'll see that menu will drop off for me. And then the last icon that we have available when we have no field selected is our draw field icon. And this works the same way as it does today. With it selected, I can then draw a field by clicking on the map, and then a box will begin to follow my icon. Once I have my field that I want to add to the policy, a double click will bring up the draw field attributes grid, where it'll show the field information for the field that we just drew on the map itself. Once you have your FTF, any adjustable farm names, share percentage, field acres, so on and so forth, once you have all that keyed in, you can just select save to add that field, or you can hit cancel to remove that field altogether. Now when you have a field selected on the map, you'll be provided with some additional icons, as you can see there. So we have our split field, we have our delete field, island cut, reshape, and pivot. And all of this is the same functionality as it works today. And so I just simply wanted to show you that you can generate these icons once you have a field selected. You also have the ability to right click on a field. So you can see once I right click on the field, I'm given the same icons available to me on the left hand side in a drop down menu here very quickly. I also have the ability to move over into report acres, which we'll get to here shortly. If I have multiple fields selected, you can see on the left hand side we're given our merge fields icon, which again same functionality, and then also if I right click, it'll adjust the menu provided to me there based on what I have selected on the map itself. And then last but not least, I actually need to turn on the all fields layer again real quickly. We have the ability to add a field very quickly by selecting the add sims field. Now this icon here is probably the most common way to add a field, just because then you're getting the exact CLU boundary of that field. Once I click this green plus sign, just like the draw fields attributes grid, we'll now get the add sims fields attribute grid. And again, now it'll show me the FTF and all that information because we've selected an actual CLU boundary. Again, just like before with with drawing a field, if everything looks correct, we can select save or cancel to start over. So those are the icons that we have available in the new EASYmapping program. And like I said before, the same functionality basically, but they are located and they do look a little different based on what you're used to seeing today. Now let's look at our drop-down menu located in the upper left-hand corner. With this selected, you can see we have some additional information and options available to you, starting with our agency settings. With agency settings selected, one new big change here is you now have the ability to turn off the NEU field number. And so what this means is when you deselect, for example, NEU field number, you can then replace that with, for example, FTF and maybe your farm name. You'll see my preview will build out based on what I have selected. And then once I have everything I like, I can go ahead and select save. You can notice you can also change the default imagery. Fastest will always be your default, which most times is what you'd like to keep on. But if you'd like to change that, you can as well here. Now once I select save, take note of the map itself. You'll see the new labels will show up for each field. And so now this will be what your labels will be going forward for all of your policies when you open up EASYmapping. This will also be the same labels you'll see on any printed documentation as well, like your EASYmapping schedule or Acreage report. To change your agency settings, simply just come back into the drop-down menu, select agency settings, and again you can then deselect or select additional pieces of data as you would like. For demonstration purposes, I'm just going to keep on the top two here. But again, whatever you prefer to see on your fields, you can select for your agency settings. Our documents, this was added into EASYmapping based on that same strategy I referenced earlier on, where we wanted to give you the most functionality within EASYmapping while never having to leave. So when I select this, this will bring up Policy Document Manager. There's actually no new functionality here. This is the same Policy Document Manager you would see if you opened it up in Policy Editor. But you can see here I can view any prior documents that have been generated, as well as adding any new documents as well. The screenshot document works just as you would assume. It takes a screenshot of whatever is currently viewed on your map and turns it into a PDF, and that way you can either print or save that document, whatever you would prefer to do. Your import fields works the same as it does today. When I select that, you'll see you get the same window where you can select the different type of files to import. And so this is actually not new functionality as well, so this is all the farther I'll go here. The next option is our generate views, and this will allow you to generate any views based by either section or FSN, and it'll implement any changes you've made on the map to your views. Now this is actually there just kind of a nice to have feature, as the EASYmapping program is actually considered a dynamic program, and what that means is that any changes we make to the fields or to the map will actually automatically apply to the views, and so you actually do not need to do this if you do not want to, but we're all creatures of habits to one degree or another. So if you prefer to manually generate each view based on changes you may have made to the fields, you would just simply navigate to this drop-down menu, select generate views, and then select either by section or FSN. Once you've made your selection, just simply hit create and it'll generate those views. Next on the list is our purge fields. Just like our import fields, same functionality as well. In this case, no, I do not, but again, the same functionality works here as it does today. Order products, again, same story with our purge fields and import fields, no new functionality. Once I select this, this will actually bring us into our map book ordering system, where you then can order your map books for your agency, have our print center print them, and then mail them off to you. In the current environment I'm in, I'm actually not connected to Agent Portal, so I can't show you, but again, it works the same way as it works today, where if you select that, it'll bring you into our map book ordering system. Same with Field Insights. You can see it's grayed out. That's only because this current environment I'm in is not connected to the Field Insights, and that way I can't click into it to show you. But when this goes live, this will work the same way as it does today, and it'll bring up the field cards located in Field Insights. Next on the list is our ability to get back into map entry, and the only reason we wanted to incorporate this is simply because we understand that map entry has been for the X amount of years the single most common used platform to report your acres. And so we didn't want to just outright remove that altogether. So if you would prefer to utilize map entry, you can see when I select that icon, a map entry window will appear, and it is the exact same screen you're used to seeing today with map entry. So we won't go into the functionality of this screen, as again, this is not new functionality at all. Compare FTF. Now this is a new feature that we implemented, and this allows you to update FTF information on your fields. To really explain how this works, I first need to explain the difference between custom mapped policies and auto mapped policies. As it sits today, over 90% of our policies are considered custom mapped policy. And what that means is that anytime any user comes in and adjusts the maps in any way, shape, or form, whether it's you reshaped a small corner off of a field, whether it's you manually inputted some FTF information, whether it's you manually inputted a farm name, it immediately becomes a custom mapped policy. And whenever a user changes anything, we as a company do not want to make the assumption that those changes or edits are not correct. We always want to assume that you know what's best for your fields, and so we want to honor that and keep it that way. And because of that, whenever their policy is custom mapped, the FTF information will not automatically update. And so what this allows us to do is to manually update the FTF information on our fields while still remaining in a custom mapped status. So you'll see here, for example, NAU field ID number 6. I've currently manually entered in some fake FTF information, in this case 1, 1, and 2, which is not correct. We have some updated information, and so all I need to do is I'm going to select that field. Take note that you can also just select all fields, or you can manually select a field like I'm going to today. So again, take note NAU field ID, and all I'm going to do is come down and select update. It'll ask, are you sure you want to do this? Then I'm going to go ahead and save. And we've just now updated field 6's FTF information. If I real quickly select my pin tool, click my field, you'll see there's our new FTF information we just updated with. Now if we go back into the compare FTF feature, you'll notice NAU field ID 6 is no longer on the list. Now if a policy is auto mapped, like I referenced earlier, what this means is that there's been no changes made to the fields. They're exactly the same as they were the day we created the policy. And because of that, there's nothing that we have to assume we're going to overwrite on, and so we're always going to automatically update the FTF information. And so if your policy is auto mapped and you select the compare and update FTF option, you'll actually never see any fields in this window, again because we've automatically updated that information as it became available to us. So this feature is mostly used for any custom map policies, which I said earlier covers almost 90% of our policies within EASYmapping. Next on the list is our mass update and quick FTF. I actually won't go into these because this is actually the same functionality that you would see in Policy Editor, and this also aligns similar to the Documents option there, where we just wanted to give you the most functionality possible while not leaving EASYmapping. And so if I select one of these, mass update or quick FTF, it'll actually bring up the same windows you would see if you opened them up in Policy Editor. Next on the list is our help icon. Now this will work similar as it works today, but the difference is today when you select the help icon, you're actually going to automatically download a PDF or the user guide for EASYmapping. Now that user guide is a really good user guide, and it covers all the functionality. It's very easy to read, and you can just follow along and work within EASYmapping. The issue is that user guide is like 90 pages long, and it can be difficult to navigate it if you're looking for one piece of functionality, for example, splitting a field. And so in order to alleviate that issue, what we've done with our help site here is when you click that icon in EASYmapping 2.0, once it goes live, is you'll actually be brought to a landing page. And on that landing page, you'll have two very large icons, one left side of the screen, one on the right hand side. One on the left will be your documents, and one on the right will be your videos. And if you click the documents icon, you'll actually be brought into a page where it'll break down all the functionality in the nice categories, your field tools, your toolbar, acreage reporting, production reporting, so on and so forth. And so you can very quickly just, okay, I want to look at split field. You click split field, and it'll bring up the piece of the user guide that will just cover that functionality. And that way you're not actually having to scroll through a very large document to find one piece of a feature or functionality within EASYmapping. Same story with the videos. If you hit rewind a little bit and go back to that landing page with your documents icon and the videos icon, if you click the videos icon, you'll be given a list of videos that will cover just a specific piece of functionality. That each video is no longer than 1.5 minutes, and then again they cover each step for that feature. So for example, split field, you click the split field video, which is like 30 seconds long, and it'll walk you through exactly how to utilize that feature. So that's how our help site will work going forward. Alright, so we've covered our icons. We've now covered our drop down menu. The next functionality is our add or edit units piece. You can see here we have this small icon just off to the right hand side of our drop down menu, and when I click this, you'll be brought into the manage units window. Now just like our documents and our mass update wizard or quick FTF, this kind of falls in that same strategy where we wanted to give you the full functionality, or as much functionality as we possibly could in EASYmapping while not asking you to leave. And so you can now edit and add units within EASYmapping without leaving. Today, if you were to click the EASYmapping icon, you'll actually be given a little pop-up warning message saying please add or edit any units before working with your fields, because once you're in EASYmapping, you would only have whatever units were available on the policy at that time. And so now you can get right in here and you can edit a unit by just clicking this button here. You can see with that unit highlighted. I get the same edit unit window I would see in Policy Editor, where I can then edit any of the unit information I'd like to. For example, unit number, the practice, share percentage, shareholder, as well as the location information. Once everything looks correct, you can go ahead and select Save or Close to return it to the original settings for that unit. You also have the ability to select Add Unit, which you can see then brings up that same window, but now everything is blank, and then I can just start from the top and begin to create a new unit so that I can report acres or production on, which we're going to get to here shortly. So that is our Add and Edit Unit functionality, which again, I got to this window here by simply clicking this icon here. We'll see this edit unit functionality a little bit later here once we get to acreage reporting. So everything we've seen so far with the icons, the menu, and the edit unit window, we've done within the Fields tab. So the next tab here is our Views tab, which will generate a new window. And we won't spend a whole lot of time here just because as of right now, there is no new functionality within Views. This is actually a straight copy over of the current views you would see today, to even include our older icons. So I won't cover much functionality here other than just to show you how to generate your views window by selecting the Views tab here. So we'll close this for now. There will be a new functionality that will be implemented here shortly, which will allow you to create views by field, and that functionality will be a new icon that will fall right in between Draw and Sort. And when you click that icon, like I said, it'll allow you to click each field that you'd like to add to a particular view. So for example, if all these fields were unassigned, they had no views currently tied to them, and I wanted to add this pivot and this large field here as one view, I could click this field, and then create a view for just those two if you'd like. And so that's how that new functionality will work. But again, as of today, no new functionality, so we're just going to close it out for now and roll over into acreage reporting. So when I first select the acreage tab, this is the window you'll see, and what we're looking at is actually our view-based acreage reporting, which is a very, very similar process to how map entry works today. So you can see here we have our map, which is much larger than the map entry map, but you can see I can click a field. We're currently in our view 1, so within view 1 I can select these units. You'll see it'll generate the acreage line down below. The colors are mapped just like before, and then I can go ahead and enter the appropriate plant date. You have the ability to select multiple fields, and again, same process. Simply key in your plant date and continue to move forward. Now again, this is our view-based acreage reporting, which is basically the same process as far as map entry works. You still have the ability to import different things, You can still add FSA acreage. The same functionality, like I said, in map entry is available to you here in the view-based acreage reporting. Take note, you have the ability to float these menus or dock them left or right so that you can get a larger view of your map as well. If everything was correct here, I could then move over to view 2 and again continue to report acres as I see fit. Also, while you're reporting acres, you'll notice up above we have a link, and so if I hover over this, it'll show me the planted acres that are total reported, or I can click this, which will generate a new internal tab so that I can jump back and forth between units and the reported acres. And then I also have the ability to filter as far as the grouping what I'm looking at. So for example, if I wanted to look at the FSN, what was reported on that, I could do that. Or I could continue to keep it on county or crop. Whatever the case is, you can see there, I can select those different filters to look at what's been reported so far. Now, like I said, this has all been done in view-based. We also have a new piece of functionality within our acreage reporting, which is currently called Open World, but it's going to be changed to what we're going to call non-view based, just so it's a little more literal, so it's more easily understandable what we're doing here. But what this will do is it'll allow you to report acres without being limited to each individual view. So real quickly, I'm just going to delete these acreage lines because I don't need them anymore. And let's go ahead and select what's currently called Open World, but what will be called non-view based. And within this environment, you can see here, I can see all of my map fields, and I can report acres without being limited to a view. So for example, I've selected 2 fields from one view and 2 fields from another view. You'll see as I select fields, it'll track here on the FTF grid. And then from here, I can navigate down to the units. Now you'll see here the units by location is currently not giving me any units available to select from. And that's simply due to the fact that I currently do not have any units that I could report the same on for each one of these 4 fields. But what I can do then is then select my global unit. And with the global unit, I have the ability to enter in the crop, practice, type, and share percentage. You don't need to fill in all 4. So for example, if I know that these 4 fields are all corn fields, I can just select corn, select add, and you'll see it's going to color my fields and then bring those 4 lines down below under our selected fields view. Now I'm going to real quickly just delete 3 of these lines to show you one piece of functionality. So you'll notice here it's currently in error because I don't have a plant date keyed in. And if I went ahead and deselected this field, so you can see here, once I do that, it no longer shows up in my selected fields grid, but the field is still yellow. And that's because we want to honor what we've done so far. This is a bug that we currently know about. We'll get this fixed. But where this field is actually showing up in is our errors view. And when I click that, you'll see there's my line. And obviously the error is I left off the plant date. Once I key that in, jump back to selected fields, you'll see that errors will drop off. Now if I wanted to see this acreage line again, what I would need to do with my selected fields icon selected, I click that field, and again you'll see that acreage line there. If I deselect the field, you'll see it no longer shows up in that grid. And so that is how you can report acres by either our view-based, which you can see here you can bounce back and forth between. If I look at view 2 here, you can see there's that line of corn I added in the open world / what will be non-view based. Or I can bounce back to non-view based, and again it'll still reflect that acreage that we reported. And then last but not least is our production. And what this will actually do is bring up our old map entry where you can then report production the same way you used to before by field. I know it's not a very common thing where we have insureds that keep the production separate by fields, but you can see here when I select that production tab up top, it obviously brings up map entry. Production is automatically selected, and then I can again work the same way by selecting my field, clicking the unit, and then keying in that production. And that is how the new EASYmapping program will work. Your marketing reps and underwriters have all seen this before, so once this goes live and you get in there, begin to play with it, if you have any questions, you can certainly reach out to them. Or again, like I said, our new help site will be very user-friendly and intuitive, where you can just click any particular piece of functionality and look at that without having to navigate a fairly large user guide. So with that being said, I just wanted to say thank you for taking some time to watch this webinar. If you have any questions, again, please reach out to your marketing reps or your underwriters, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Thanks a lot, everyone.